And this has always been centrally the big flaw of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a wonderful system that everybody thinks of as like anonymous money, but it's actually anything but that.
I don't want to see people adopting a system that can be used to surveil them. I want to see them adopt something that's trying to protect them.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Satoshi alluded to a theoretical technology that could be used to solve this problem.
A zero-knowledge proof, this is a hard question.
When it's actually being implemented, everything becomes harder.
We thought the hard part was just getting the core technical thing done. How do we use these zero-knowledge proofs?
If we did make this thing, it could become the mainstream thing that everyone needs all the time because they can't use Bitcoin for that.
The default position should be private unless there is a reason to reveal some piece of information.
Bitcoin removed middlemen and centralized control, making a global currency that is digital, decentralized, and peer-to-peer. But despite its immense potential, Bitcoin had one severe flaw.
The problem that Satoshi set out to solve was the one that I had tried and failed to solve, which is how to make money decentralized. And the solution is we're not going to rely on any one party to keep track of things for us. Instead, everyone's going to keep track of everyone else's things. But the inevitable problem with that is then you can't use it without exposing your own private actions to everyone else on the whole internet.
Phrase I coined a number of years ago was Bitcoin is Twitter for your bank account. Let's say you had a credit card and every time you swiped it, it tweeted the credit card transaction data. It would literally be public to everybody. And this is exactly what happens in a cryptocurrency. Every time you use it, the transaction you make is broadcast to the world for everyone to see.
Anyone back then knew, and this is the early 2010s, that Bitcoin was not private. And that someday someone's going to have to figure out a way to build the same thing but make it completely private.
After Bitcoin was released, Satoshi Nakamoto wrote about this flaw in a public discussion with other developers.
He and some of the others had a discussion in public on the Bitcoin Talk forum where Satoshi said, if only we could encrypt the transactions in the blockchain. And we could do that if only we could prove that the encrypted transactions are still correct. They're still following the rules. They don't forge money out of thin air. Nobody can give money to someone and then also give the same money to someone else, etc.
Satoshi alluded to a theoretical technology that could be used to solve this problem.
Zero-knowledge proofs can be used to solve the privacy problem in a blockchain.
So what exactly is a zero-knowledge proof?
A zero-knowledge proof, this is a hard question.
Zero-knowledge proofs are a way to prove the truth of a piece of information without revealing the information itself.
What I mean by you can prove a fact about something without revealing it. Here we have Jesse, who's going to serve as my demo helper. So he's got a bunch of bits of data on cards here. You show him the bits.
Yep.
He's got a bunch of cards. I'm going to turn my back, and Jesse's going to pick two of those bits. So you all know what the bits are, but I don't. I don't know if you should have people vote on which one to pick up, or...
All right, Zuko, turn around.
Okay, so I can't see the bits. Are those two bits the same as each other, or are they different from each other, Jesse?
They're different.
I don't believe you. I think you actually picked two zeros, and you're making a fool of me in front of everyone. Why don't you just show me the bits, and then I'll know that you're telling the truth?
Can't do that.
All right, so how are you going to prove to me that they're different without giving me any information about the bits?
I don't know.
Okay, I got an idea. Here's what we'll do. I'll hold on to them, but I won't look.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to put them behind my back, and then I'll either swap them or I won't. And if they're really different, you'll be able to tell. But if they're both zero, then I'm going to catch you in this lie. Ready? Okay.
Okay.
Did I swap them?
No.
All right, so I didn't swap them that time, but I think they're actually both zero, and you're just bluffing, right? So you just guessed. So hold on a second. Did I swap them that time?
Yes.
Okay, you got me twice in a row, but you could be bluffing, right? So let's do it 100 more times. Hold on a minute.
No.
All right, 97 more times. This is why we use computers for zero-knowledge proofs. After we've done it 100 times, I'm really convinced that they're different. right? Because if they were the same, he wouldn't have been able to do that. So that's a proof. It's been proven to me that these two bits are different from each other. But it's a zero knowledge proof because I have learned zero information about what's on here. No matter if we did it 1,000 times, all I know is the one fact that he wanted to prove, which is that they're different. So that's a zero knowledge proof.
Zero-knowledge proofs are the key to keeping transaction details private. When you make a transaction from your phone or computer, it gets run through a code that checks whether or not it's following certain rules. If the transaction is following the rules, it gets approved and then encrypted. Once encrypted, the transaction details are kept completely private. But in order to prove to the blockchain network that the private transaction is legitimate, the locked transaction is given a stamp of approval that everyone can read. This stamp is a zero-knowledge proof. It proves the validity of the transaction without revealing any of the private information inside. The encrypted transaction and its zero-knowledge proof are then sent to the blockchain network, where it's verified and added to the blockchain.
So I think what makes Zcash an incredibly interesting cryptocurrency is that it is truly a private currency.
I think truly private transactions are when you can transact with each other without requiring each other to disclose more information than necessary.
It should be basically like the default position that your systems and your preferences should be private unless there is a reason to reveal some piece of information.
So if you go into a coffee shop and you buy your coffee and you pay for it in Zcash, then the coffee shop owner finds out that they got paid, but they're not able to trace back, and nobody on the internet is able to trace back where you got your money and how much money you have.
So Zcash, the name is not coincidental. We believe the privacy brings us closer to the privacy you expect from cash, like an everyday person expects from cash.
Cash is a pretty amazing privacy technology, but it's horrible on the internet because it's not digital.
When we're sending transactions all over the world, privacy is necessary for safety.
The Handmaid's Tale, Margaret Atwood, she made this point on her masterclass. It was great. Never give up cash. She talked about how so much of what we do is digital now. You can always tie transactions to somebody, and you can also, with the push of a button, cut somebody off. In her case, in The Handmaid's Tale, that was a whole gender. Women could no longer have any freedom. They couldn't pay for anything.
It has been reported that if you are in Western China and you suddenly stop buying alcohol and cigarettes, you are likely to be investigated and you might end up in a re-education center. And the reason for that is, of course, the Uyghur population is predominantly Muslim, and a sign of devoutness or maybe returning to one's non-Han Chinese beliefs is giving up alcohol. The fact that that would be a metric that we start to judge our citizens on, and the fact that we get that metric from replacing cash with a centralized payment method, it should be all anybody needs to hear.
I don't want to see people adopting a system that can be used to surveil them. I want to see them adopt something that's trying to protect them.